Welcome back to another episode of Small Engines Questions and Answers for Friday, March 25th, 2011. Thanks again for all your support in the last week. It's almost springtime here, and pretty soon I'm going to show you guys in a future video how to put away your snowblowers for the summer. And soon we're going to be getting into the lawnmower and summer outdoor power equipment videos, so I look forward to that as well. Also, I want to let you guys know that I have a French channel on YouTube, and I'm going to put the link to that channel right underneath this video here so you can go take a look. Also, if you don't understand English too well and you have questions, you can email me your questions in French as well, because I read and write in both English and French. I don't have too many videos on that channel yet, but I'm slowly putting some on. So go take a look, subscribe if you want to learn how to speak French. Maybe that's a good way. Not sure about that. But anyways, where I grew up in Northern Ontario near Timmins, there was a lot of French-speaking people there as well. It's mostly English, but there's a combination of both languages there, even though it's not in Quebec. Now, my first question today, YouTubers are wondering, how do I remove belt pulleys from snowblower engines? Here's an older Tecumseh engine here, and I left a pulley on there just to show you how I remove them. First of all, make sure you loosen this set screw here. That's what keeps it tight on the shaft. Now you're going to notice that some blowers have a bolt here at the end to keep the pulley in. This one doesn't. Here's another Tecumseh engine, and as you can see here, this one does have a bolt that keeps the pulley onto the shaft. It does not have a set screw like I just showed you on the other motor. Now what usually works to get these pulleys off, if you can't just pull it off by yourself with your hands, is grab a little puller like this. This is a cheap little puller, but usually this one will do the job. Just put it over here at the end of the shaft. Make sure that the arms are grabbing inside the pulley. Then just tighten it up and it's going to pull the pulley out. Just like that. If you find you can't grab the pulley properly with this puller here, you can use a puller like this. Insert it over here. And the arms on this one are bent a bit so that it's going to be easier to get it onto the pulley. And once you've got it in like this, just tighten it up and it's going to pull it out. You may find it easier with this puller here, shaped like this, than this little puller here. And this other puller here has 3 jaws. So this might be even easier. If it's on really tight, this one's going to have more power when you go to remove the pulley. Now if the pulley is fused or seized on the shaft, you may have to heat the end here to get it off. Make sure you don't overheat it because you may damage the oil seal for the crankshaft over here. But as you saw on this other motor here, the seal is pretty far from where the pulleys are, so chances are you're not going to damage the oil seal. So just be careful, keep an eye on it that it doesn't get too hot. So here's another view of all these 3 pullers. Now throughout the winter I got a lot of questions in regards to having your blower tipped over like this when you're working on it. People are wondering, does that send the oil in the engine where it shouldn't be? Or will the oil leak out of the engine when it's tipped up like that? Well, the answer to that is if you have a Tecumseh, even on some Briggs motors, I've never had a problem with oil getting in the wrong area of the motor or leaking out the engine. You would want to make sure though, before you tip your snowblower over, that the dipstick tube here is screwed in tight into the base of the engine down here, because if it's loose, the oil is going to come out of here. And also when you remove the dipstick, make sure that the O-ring over here is good, because if it's rotted or broken off, the oil will come out when your engine is tipped over like that. And I've let them tipped over like that for hours, even a couple days, and never had a problem. The only other thing that you have to make sure is that the fuel tank isn't too full. If the fuel tank's too full, what's going to happen is the fuel is going to come up over here and slightly leak out the fuel cap, which can be a danger in your shop. So what I recommend for that is, before you work on your blower, is remove the fuel line past the fuel shutoff valve. Then you can turn it on or off, drain the fuel out of the fuel tank, and then you can work on your blower tipped over like that, and you don't have to worry about fuel leaking out the gas cap. Now it's much easier working on your blower when it's tipped over like this, because you're not bent in half, and a lot of the parts are much easier to access this way, especially when you're working on the transmission parts over here. Now this blower here, before I tipped it up, I drained the fuel out of the tank, and as you can see here, it's been sitting up for a while. There is no oil dripping out of the engine anywhere whatsoever. Now the last question today is regarding chainsaws, especially when you repair the top end, meaning the cylinder, piston, and rings. A YouTuber asked me, what kind of gasket maker do you use when you reinstall the cylinder to the base of the engine. Well, the sub that I use is called Permatex Ultra Black, and it's an RTV silicone, and it's resistant to oil and gas, and it's high temp as well, as you can see on the label here. Now when I do a job like this, I still use the gasket that goes over here and this RTV silicone. Now you can buy a product called Eliminate a Gasket, and you do not need the paper gasket down here. Now what I did when I rebuilt the Husqvarna 55, which you will see in a video, now I applied the RTV silicone all around the base of the cylinder. Then I placed the gasket over the silicone. Then I inserted a small layer of silicone again, let it get tacky, and then I installed the cylinder, and that was it. Make sure all your metal parts are clean though before you install the gasket maker. Now anytime you buy a gasket maker, make sure to read all the instructions on the back of the tube. So that'll be it for this week. Have yourselves a safe and happy weekend. See you next Friday.